Good evening, everybody. This is meteorologist Andrew Pinero with a fairly quick update on the snow that's going to be coming this evening. Okay, so let's get started right now with some of the watches and advisories out there. So let me switch on over here. And right from the National Weather Service, you can see a lot of this area in the blue shade here. Winter weather advisory. There are some areas with a winter storm warning. This is Suffolk County in Long Island, and starting to get right along the Jersey Shore there and heading south, all in a winter storm warning. So let's focus right now on the winter weather advisory. So let's take a look at that. So this is what is not as strong winds we're going to see with this one. The winter storm warning, that's where you can see a little stronger winds versus the winter weather advisory. At least for this, it's saying it looks like we are expecting 2 to 4 inches of snow. And this is specifically stating Orange and Putnam counties. However, if you take a look at the map, if I go back here, there's actually everywhere, not just Orange and Putnam counties. It is everywhere. So back here, we're seeing from midnight to noon on Friday. So it looks like from the previous forecast models, it has been pushed back a little bit more in terms of the timing for the forecast. And we'll take a look at that on the radar and then compare that to the forecast models. So that's really what we're expecting is 2 to 4 inches of snow. And this is the winter storm warning. So this is again a little bit more east going into Suffolk County and Long Island, and south of New York City going along the Jersey Shore. 3 to 5 inches of snow. And this is again going to create some pretty slippery conditions. Some of the roads or most of the roads from what I've seen have been treated already, so that's a good thing. But sidewalks may not be treated in some areas at all. So you got to keep that in mind if you are walking anywhere. The roads should be fairly okay. It's just going to be a bit more slick than normal versus just downright dangerous on the sidewalks where we could have in those untreated areas where it's just going to be like a snow and ice combination there. So that's what we're seeing from the National Weather Service here. Now let's start taking a look at the storm where it is right now. Oh, actually before there, this is something the National Weather Service has been putting out fairly recently that I do like. This is the weather story. And this here we'll talk about the forecast model snowfall totals in a bit, but here, this is what the National Weather Service is showing right now. So right around, it looks like most of the suburbs of New York City here. So going as far east as it looks like, I would call that about Newark, a little bit more west of Newark, going up to halfway through Orange County here. In this medium, I call it medium shade blue. This is about 3 inches of snow. And that's kind of what I've been expecting from this whole thing, is right around that 3-inch mark. Now, once you get a bit more northwest, so this is going into, say, Middletown in Orange County, this is going to be a little bit less just because you're further away from the more intense snow. But when you get more east, going into the shoreline of Connecticut, and especially Suffolk County, this is where it's showing almost 7 inches of snow in the yellow shaded area there. So that's straight from the National Weather Service. So we'll take a look at the snow totals in just a moment. But let's take a look right now on the satellite here. So with the satellite, this is the nighttime microphysics satellite, which I do like because it's basically visible satellite at night. So we can see the darker reds and that kind of fuzziness there. That's all the clouds. So this is a pretty big system coming through. It's not very intense because it is spread out like the figure skater. The more compact the system is, the more intense it is. The more spread out, the milder it is. And that's kind of what we're seeing with this. All right. And on the big radar here, we are seeing what looks like some patches of heavier snow starting to come through. So we're looking right now, looks like it went through New York City, starting to come through the lower Hudson Valley, a band of some snow there. Looks like a little plume over Philadelphia to Trenton in South Jersey there. Going into Pennsylvania, there's some streaks and bands of snow that are fairly heavy. And again, this radar doesn't depict the difference between frozen and liquid precipitation, it just shows intensity. What does is radar scope here. Now, what's interesting if we compare these, this here on the National Weather Service, the Mosaic radar, which is basically a composite of radar, it doesn't show as big of a little like pocket here over Jersey as radar scope is, which I think is interesting. Let me actually switch this to a different radar station and see what happens. Yeah, so it must be something with the Mount Holly radar station. Actually, this one's doing it too, right around it. So it's something where right around the radar station, it is not showing any precipitation, which is just not true. So if I switch between these, we are seeing precipitation around each of those radar stations. But when I'm on that actual radar station, it shows nothing around it. So that tells me that this actually might be higher in the atmosphere, so that the low beam of the radar is not being picked up. That could be a potential in there. But kind of interesting. Anyway, we are seeing it looks like the rain line staying right along the, or just offshore of the Jersey Shore, kind of from Brick in New Jersey down south and right along the south shore of Long Island. Now, what's happening here is we're having a bit of an influence from the marine layer going into the land. So right at that boundary between ocean and land, it looks like there's some sort of dynamics happening that's causing this temperature to drop fairly rapidly, to go pretty much from rain to snow instantly without any ice in the middle. So that I found a little bit fascinating. But here we are seeing the darker shades of blue, the heavier snow bands starting to come through. And that's pretty much throughout the entire area. And that's really what's going to be happening, is it's starting to kick up now right about midnight. And then we're going to be seeing, going into, say, 4 a.m. to 7 a.m., the heaviest of the snow. So that's what we're seeing on the radar there. And on the surface analysis, we do have this high pressure that is out there right now. That's keeping most of the heavy precipitation south of the New York City area. We will still see snow, and that's what this is depicting here. Snow for most of the area. The heaviest snow from this whole system looks like it's going to be right around eastern West Virginia. That's where the real like bullseye for the storm is right now. And we're going to be experiencing kind of the outskirts of it. If you go even more north, say like Albany, you may not get anything from this, unfortunately, for a nice little dusting of some snow. All right, now let's start taking a look at the forecast models. So we're seeing here, this is the GFS, and let's start advancing through here. So there's the bulk of this. It looks like the heaviest is showing this 12Z, which is 7 a.m., and then starts petering off after that. But if you look at those isobars there, they really get close together. That means it's going to be windy. So tomorrow, it looks like it's going to be a very typical January day, where it's going to be cold. We're going to have a few inches of snow. We're going to have very gusty winds, and it's just going to feel like an icy winter wonderland out there, which sounds pleasant, but it's not going to be pleasant at all. Okay, so that's the GFS. Let's take a look here at the Euro. So the Euro is also targeting that 12Z, like 7 a.m. time frame for here. It's kind of where the heaviest of the snow is making its exit out of the area for New York City. Now, for like Boston, that's still the heaviest of the snow. So snow totals may be a little bit higher there because you're getting more intense snow over the same or even longer period of time. And then once the storm makes its way out going into the afternoon, so we got 18Z, 1 p.m. here, The isobars, again on the Euro, just like the GFS, very tight together. So it looks like it's going to be a windy afternoon. A lot of model agreements we are seeing on this. All right, so then for the icon here. Now, the icon is a little bit of a different type of forecast model because it's more of a medium range versus the long range like the GFS and the Euro. So we have a bit more detail out of this, but it doesn't go out as far. So this is showing between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. That's where the heaviest really starts, and then the peak heaviest kind of makes its way through. Again, that same 7 a.m., 8 a.m. time frame. And then on the NAM here, let's see what this shows. Now, the NAM also is different than even anything else because this is simulated radar versus precipitation rate that we've seen before. So this is showing, let's see, let's back it up to that 1 a.m. 6Z time frame. That's where the heaviest snow is really starting. It peaks here right at about 4 a.m. and then starts to peter off by 7, 8, 9 a.m., it looks like. Except, again, if you go more west, so the Twin Forks in Long Island, Boston, you're going to see prolonged snow, so your totals look like they could be a little bit higher, but we are still going to be dealing with this strong winds with the pressure gradient increase after the storm. Now let's talk a little bit about the snow totals, and that's kind of where we're going to end the video for tonight. Okay, so this pops up fairly quickly. Let's take a look at the total there. So this is what we're seeing. This is kind of what I've been mentioning. So on the GFS here, for the New York City area, it looks like maybe 3, potentially 4 inches if you go into Connecticut and Fairfield County there, which is still in technically the New York City area, but right around 3 inches from most of the New York City area. Then you go into Connecticut and then into Massachusetts. This is where we could be seeing, looks like the 6+ inches of snow. So I'd say 6 to 10 inches of snow in those areas, those little pockets there, because you're seeing the prolonged precipitation. And it's going to be a little bit heavier precipitation because it's closer to the center of the storm as it's traveling on this diagonal. So that is the GFS, and that's really it looks like, because it's very quick. By the afternoon tomorrow, or today technically, we are seeing it's going to be clearing out. So that's the GFS. Let's take a look at the Euro. Here it comes. And it looks like that's where it starts peaking. So South Jersey, again, because it's closer to the center track of the winter storm, and maybe about 5 to 6 inches of snow. The New York City area looks like maybe about that 3-inch mark, 2 to 3 inches. Once you get a bit more northwest into like Sussex, Orange, Sullivan, Ulster, Dutchess counties there, it looks like it's going to be just barely 2 inches, maybe 1 to 2 inches, and just a little trace to 1 inch once you get even more north from there. Going into Long Island, that's where it looks like we're going to be in the 4+ kind of region. And the Twin Forks could see the most with what looks like here. Where is my legend? There it is. Looks like 6 inches or a little over 6 inches. Same thing going into Boston area. That's where we were seeing those streaks of the heaviest snow there. So that's what we could be seeing, it looks like, throughout this. And I'm assuming the icon in the NAM are going to be very similar. But let's take a quick peek here. So on the icon here, it's actually a little bit less. So it's showing 1 to 2 inches for and again, the icon is not the most accurate in terms of the snow forecasts, but it's just good to look at here. So 1 to 2 inches, it's showing a little bit less for the New York City area, and it's very evenly spread, where we're seeing 1 to 2 inches throughout almost all of the Northeast, except in West Virginia, like the National Weather Service map showed, And not even in Boston. Boston's only showing 3 inches, it looks like. Same thing with the Twin Forks there, maybe 3 inches. But I think it's going to be higher than that. So I'm not really confident in this icon model. And then the last one here, the NAM. Let's take a look. Usually this one's pretty good. Okay, so here, very similar. This is probably going to be the one I would agree with the most. So again, right around here, New York City area is going to be right around 3 inches. It is kind of hinting at maybe 3 to 6 inches in some little localized spots. Again, that's because the NAM is a higher resolution forecast model. So it could see things that none of the other forecast models can. So it could be seeing maybe 3 or 4 inches in some little localized spots. But overall, I'd say 3 inches is going to be the target there. Except when you go into West Virginia, South Jersey. That's where it's showing 6+ inches of snow. Not even the Twin Forks, not as high, which I think is going to be the case because you do have that marine layer effect, which could bring the totals down a little bit, just slightly. But I think it's still going to be here right around the 3-inch, maybe 4-inch mark there. But for Boston, this is where, because it's on the coast and it's right in line with the center as this system makes its way through, I think Boston could be seeing a little bit more snow, like it's showing here, the 6 to 10-inch range there. So overall, looks like these are going to be the targets: West Virginia, South Jersey, and the eastern Massachusetts area. The New York City area looks like it could be right around 3 to maybe 4 inches in some spots. Once you really get north and west of the suburbs of New York City, going even into like Albany, just an inch, dusting to an inch. That's really about it. So that pretty much wraps up the system. Oh, one last thing before we end the video. Temperatures. It really looks like the temperatures are going to be staying at the freezing point or just above the freezing point. So when I go back to say this here, when we're taking a look at the pressure gradient and the winds, it looks like even though it's clearing out and the sun may break through, I don't think there's going to be much melting because it's going to be windy and cold. So we're not really going to have that thawing happening if the sun pops out. So the temperatures are not going to be very warm. So it's definitely going to feel like a January mid-deep winter day tomorrow. Or today, technically. All right. So that wraps up this video. I hope you all enjoyed. It was kind of a dense video, but there was a lot to get through specifically for tomorrow. If you are new to the channel and you want to get more weather information, feel free to hit the subscribe button below and the little bell icon right next to that so you get notified whenever I upload a video like this or I do go live. All right, this is meteorologist Andrew Pinero. Have a great rest of your night going into the day. Please stay safe through this. It's going to be a little bit treacherous in the morning, but a little bit better in the afternoon. And I will see you all in the next video.